In this episode of the Tech John, we discuss what we expect out of WWDC, why you shouldn't let AI write your legal briefs, if Android XR will be a thing, and if AI will soon decimate most entry-level white-collar jobs. We got all this and more for you in episode 180 of the Tech John. From Columbus, Ohio, I'm your host, Robb Dunewood.
And coming out of Philly, it's your girl Tech Life Steph.
And this is Terrance Gaines, a.k.a. Brother Tech, a.k.a. Yes, sirs. I got my Circle City basketball. I don't know if you can see, but I got my, let me go get it over here. Got my Indiana Pacers hat. We are celebrating the Pacers going to the NBA Finals. People are not happy about that for haterish reasons, but a win is a win. Folks are saying, oh, this will be so boring because the Indiana Pacers and the Oklahoma City Thunder are playing in the championship. And it's like, well, ain't nobody tell y'all to lose to some little market.
I said this on Threads or Blue Sky somewhere the other day, that this could arguably be the least watched finals probably this millennia. But that has nothing to do with the teams. It has everything to do with the media markets that the teams play in. So you can't just make Indianapolis be the size of New York City. You can't just make Oklahoma be the size of Los Angeles. It doesn't work that way. But I tend to think it actually might be a fairly decent game. So
it's going to be. So here's the problem. Here's the issue. It's going to be entertaining and it's going to be interesting. And the teams are pretty evenly matched. SGA, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is the face of the NBA, or one of the new faces of the NBA, versus Tyrese Halliburton and a couple other players. Outside of SGA and Chet Holmgren, ain't too many names out there, but they're evenly matched as far as the team is concerned. They've got both teams have multiple players that can be factors versus some of them other teams. One, maybe two players, maybe 1.5, maybe. Both the Pacers and the Oklahoma City Thunder have a full roster and then some. Yeah. So the games are going to be close. The game's going to be interesting, but that ain't what people are upset about. They upset because one of the Lakers, the Warriors, even the Knicks to a certain extent, no Celtics, none of these teams that everybody loves, from, like you mentioned, Robb, people who are Indiana fans. Ain't too many of people like me in Atlanta, an Indiana fan. Same thing across the country, right? Versus you can find a sea of Knicks fans in Atlanta, or a sea of Warriors fans, in Oklahoma, right? So I think that's the issue. I get it, but it's like, all right, y'all do better. Ain't even got to worry about it. And then, make matters worse. I'm gonna get off my high horse. When you watch the NFL, why always everybody complaining? Robb, why do you think everybody's complaining every single year about the NFL as it relates to who's playing?
Usually because Dallas ain't in it ever.
One. And two, the same teams, Eagles, Chiefs, couple other teams, right? Rams, maybe, but they all, the Patriots prior to, pre Tom Brady leaving, right? Everybody's like, oh, the same teams are always in the NFL. And more importantly, the game is rigged, especially with the Chiefs. They're always, the refs, and everybody wants to. And then you get to the NBA, it's like, oh man, we actually want
the same teams.
Make up your minds, man.
Yeah. Well, y'all, this is a tech show. We have talked about an awful lot of basketball and a little bit of football, but we are going to get to some tech. Before we do, I do want to let everyone who's listening know that you can support the Tech John by becoming a patron. If you were to head over to thetechjohn.com, that's the tech, JAWN.com/Patreon, you will find multiple tiers over there, any one of which get you access to our live stream and after party. So if you would like to support the show and help us bring this tech to you the way that we bring it, once again, head over to thetechjohn.com/Patreon. So let's kick things off with a week from today. WWDC kicks off. For those who aren't aware, WWDC is the Worldwide Developer Conference. This is the developer conference that Apple puts on every year. And it generally comes around this time of the year. We've already had Microsoft Build a couple weeks ago. We had Google I/O last week. Those conferences were about AI and AI and AI and AI and AI. My question to you guys is, what will WWDC be about? Because I don't know that they can lean into the AI like these other companies can, because they don't have anything AI worthy of talking about probably until sometime next year this time.
Well, I guess the opposite is true, right? What do Microsoft and Google have but AI? So you gotta you gotta do the balance here, right? With Apple, yes, they are really going to try to. Actually, they're going to make. I believe they're going to make AI important in their. Um, what is the thing at the
The keynote.
beginning? Yes. Why can't I think of that? They're going to make it important, but they're going to basically be like, "Hey, we know what we're doing. Just hang in there. Just hang in there. Just hang in there. It ain't gonna be like, oh, we're doing this new with AI. We're doing this new with AI. And now our AI, they're gonna be like, hey, y'all gotta trust us. Trust the process." That's what I think Apple's gonna be trying to do the entire show. It's like, hey, just hang in there. We're getting there. Y'all know us. We last, but we the best. So hang in there. And people are like, hey man, come on, y'all. Y'all need to come on with the come on.
Yeah, you're not likely to get me to start purchasing non-Apple products, as a consumer, but my Apple defense is starting to show cracks,
Yeah,
definitely,
buddy.
because the idea that, the best thing you have to offer is renaming iOS, like that's just like that's not enough anymore. And I think Apple's cracks are starting to show, as far and I don't doubt that once they do finally get their AI off the ground, it's going to be amazing. It's going to be everything Apple always able to do. However, you know, it just may be too little too late.
Mhm.
And it's, it's very difficult for me to, try to defend them anymore, as far as their innovation goes. I'm like, y'all got to get it together.
Yeah.
I've been thinking a lot about this, just because I'm just looking at a lot of different AI, and if I were an Apple fan, if I'm not an anti-fan. I just prefer Android over iPhone. I do use an iPad for things. I've had Macs before. Probably going to get a Mac relatively soon. So I'm not anti Apple by any stretch of the imagination. I do think, however, that Apple, they really miscalculated what AI is, and how big it is, and just how fast
I don't
it's
even
moving.
I don't even think it's that. I think Apple under what's the word? Underestimated how much we want AI so much. Apple's like, oh, what? Wait a minute, well, y'all trying. We just talked about this in the beginning, in the pre-show. Lawyers are actually trying to bring in evidence that they found on AI, and Apple's like, hey, wait a minute, we we ain't trying to do none of that
But
now, and
what
people
though
want it.
is the thing, like, isn't there already some level of ChatGPT integration in iOS currently?
They have punted to Chat
Mhm.
GPT. And if I choose to, and I do it sometimes, like if I'm
Mhm.
looking up something that is like empirically understood, right? Who won the Super Bowl in 2022? I'm typically asking Chat GPT on my phone because I do have that setting that says, you know, do you want to ask Chat GPT? And I
Right.
specifically say, hey Siri, ask Chat GPT, blah, 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 blah.
Right,
Right.
right.
But um that's all
So
they
it's
do.
like,
That's pretty much it.
why haven't they decided to capitalize off of that, as opposed to trying so hard to come up with some
Alternative ways
yeah,
to use
some
AI that
or
people are gonna love.
some bespoke thing from
Yeah,
Because
Apple
sure.
directly. It's like y'all could already been in this
Yeah,
game.
because here's what I think. Because once that genie is out the bottle, you can't put it back in. So here's what, in my estimation, Apple did. Apple said, okay, AI is a thing. They figured it out. And they said, we can't just punt this to Google. We can't just punt it to OpenAI or Perplexity or anybody else that's doing this. We need to do our own thing. Why? Because we have this assistant on our own devices called Siri, and we don't want to just kill that brand. A lot of people like Siri at one point, and we would like them to get to like it again. So they had their own thing and they decided, okay, let's go ahead and do this. And then when they got into it, they figured that, oh, we're not just a year behind Google. We are 3 years behind Google. We're not just 4 years behind, or just a year and a half, 2 years behind OpenAI. We are multiple years behind them. And it wasn't to an Apple standard. And they had to stop it and say, okay, we can't put this out because we'll be judged on our stuff if we put our stuff out, and it is getting trounced up with these other things can do. But I think the other problem is that AI is moving so fast, and we'll get to this in other stories. It's moving so fast, and it is getting so much better so quickly. The fact that they really haven't released anything, is very problematic, because now what it looks like is that, well, if you just allow Gemini to be your AI, it's kind of like using Google to be your to be your search engine. Google owns the search on the iPhone. At least they did. It's kind of changing, but they owned it. They were paying Apple billions and billions and billions of dollars to be the default search engine on that. It looks like courts are saying, no, we really don't like these big giant companies giving you money for them to be the default anymore, Apple. So you need to change up. And I think that is, playing into this as well. And they just don't have anything that is comparable to what Gemini is, to what Perplexity is, to what Claude is, to what OpenAI is. And they're finding themselves behind. And my concern for Apple is that this stuff is not supposed to come out until the fall of next year. And there's rumors that it could be even 2027. At that point, will people care enough? Because if they've already installed everything else and they've gotten used to using that, will you now coming out with something, even though it is built into your phone, are you going to get a lot of people to stop using what they were using to start using your stuff? I think because Apple is Apple, they'll probably be all right. But
Yeah,
they
it's
are going to
because
lose some share as far as their
it'll
services go.
likely be better. It'll likely integrate more seamlessly into how we do our work, and it will be a superior product because, if we're looking at history, everything they do is I mean, and you can call me biased if you want, but they do get that part of it right most of the time. So I think they'll be fine, but it is just interesting that it's taking them so long, and some people can look at that with anticipation, but some people are going to look at it with frustration as well.
Yeah. Most people who are like really, they recognize that AI ain't going nowhere, right? As much as personally, I'm like, y'all doing too goddamn much. But I'm like the small minority of people. It's like, hey man, let's think about this, right? Most people are like, hey, I want to be able to X, Y, and Z, A, B, C. And if AI is going to help me even a little bit to get there, I'm all in, right? And I think, Apple, the clock is ticking to where Apple is like, all right, you're going to have to decide who's your master. Are you going to be the small amount of people like me? Is kind of like, all right, I'm taking my time. So I ain't in no rush. So whenever Apple decides to do something, I'm cool because I ain't in no hurry.
Right.
Or are they going to serve the people who are like, Apple's got
We
this
want
year,
AI.
right?
Y'all got one more. Y'all got one more WWDC
Right.
to
This
not have some shit,
if
and
y'all
we
don't
out.
fix it, if y'all don't fix it next week, it's a wrap.
Yeah.
Who's Apple gonna serve?
So here's where I will disagree with you, Steph, because I don't think that Apple will have a better product as far as AI is concerned. What I think Apple will do, and this is what I think they do well in a lot of ways, is they will integrate it into the iPhone in a much better way than anybody else can. Because when I think about Apple,
Well, that's what I
yeah,
meant.
well, I just
Yeah.
wanted to just clarify the point, because like when I think
Yeah.
about Apple products, Apple has a whole lot of products that do not hold water when you compare them to, like, they have a tool that you can use to make slides with, Keynote ain't PowerPoint. Let's not get that even misconstrued at all. It's like, it's not even close. They have a word processor. It's not even close to Word. So, but the integration into Apple stuff, that's where they have an advantage. And that's why I ultimately think that they're going to be okay, because you just now have these additional features that are a little bit more secure, and they integrate into the stuff that you already have. Where my concern is for Apple, though, and this is where I say I think they might be running out of time, is that if people have been using a ChatGPT on an iPhone for years, if they've been using Gemini on an iPhone for years, if they've been using Perplexity or whatever else the case is for years, and then you just now all of a sudden have it, doesn't mean I'm going to stop. Like, I'm not going to stop using Excel just because Google Sheets came out. That's not how that
Right.
works for a lot of people. Or I'm
Sure.
not going to stop using
But
Google Sheets just because somebody else came out with something that is also a spreadsheet. And I think that that's where they ultimately lose share, because what Apple has been trying to do for the last several years is not be so much a hardware company that is the most glorious marketing firm we've ever seen. In addition to being a hardware company, they really want to be a services company. And because that's ultimately where they can really make the real money, the trillions of dollars that they're already making. They want to make more trillions of them. That's going to be in software and services. And I think AI, they have let themselves down on that, because there's a lot of money that Apple just won't see, in my estimation, if they don't get this stuff out in a year from now. If it slips into 2027, I don't want to say it's a wrap. It just will never be what it could have been
No,
if they would have come out with
they'll never
something in
catch
time.
up. They'll definitely never catch up.
So this, y'all, is like the AI story. The AI tech job. We talk about AI, a bunch of AI stories today. This next one, Terrance, you stuck this in here. I title it "Don't Let AI Write Checks Your Behind Can't Cash," because you kind of alluded to it. There's a law firm that's gotten a little bit of trouble over some stuff that they've done with ChatGPT. So why don't you tell us what's going on?
yeah, a law firm in Utah blames a unlicensed law clerk.
Somebody had
Fire
to take the fall.
somebody, right? After ChatGPT hallucinations found in filing. So basically, there was some undergrad or college graduate level. Um, I guess you would call them. What do you call assistants in law? Are they law clerks or are
Paralegals,
they
but I don't think that
paralegals?
they were one, because they said that
Okay.
paralegals are actually legal officers of the court, I think, in some level. Maybe this person wasn't.
Well, I mean, I'm pretty sure unlicensed is merely a technicality because I'm pretty sure most paralegals or assistants, grad students
Mhm.
aren't
Mhm.
licensed because they haven't taken any professional
Yeah,
whatever.
probably
They have
just
not passed the bar yet. Yeah.
someone who, right. So I was going to say probably just didn't pass the bar yet.
But I'm pretty sure it ain't just these people. I'm pretty sure law firms across the globe are armed to the teeth with these unlicensed law students. So I don't know if that excuse holds water. But anyway, last month, a recent law school graduate lost his job after using ChatGPT to help draft a court filing that ended up being riddled with errors. Consequences arrived after court ordered a court in Utah ordered sanctions after the filing included the first fake citation ever discovered in the state, hallucinated by artificial intelligence. So I don't know what the hallucinated part is. I don't know if that's just like AI terminology for it
That's,
made some
yeah,
stuff
It
it's
just
up.
made some stuff
no,
up.
it is. It just
It
made that
literally,
literally
AI
is what
said,
that
"See what had
means.
happened was," and then
Mhm.
they stuttered a lot, and then they just told a whole fabricated story.
Oh my
And just
goodness.
literally made some, that's what a hallucination is. Yeah. And yeah, to your point, I think they are just trying to use that whole unlicensed terminology to cover their own behinds and say
Mhm.
that was them. They weren't even necessarily, allowed to do this and whatever. So they're throwing this person under the bus. This recent law school graduate is the one getting thrown under the bus when,
Mhm.
he was probably working 80 hours a week. Somebody was probably breathing down his neck to get this brief done
And everybody
and the
else is doing
research
it.
for
All
it.
the other
Yeah. And everybody else is doing it. And he was the one that got caught because the system broke down in this instance
right.
and hallucinated.
Yep, yep,
Hmm.
yep.
So
So let me just give a little bit more information. The fake, well, not a little bit more information, but I guess like the whole thing behind this is like we know everybody's using Chat GPT or just AI in
mhm.
general. We using to cut corners, right? We think it's increasing productivity and project management and time.
Meanwhile,
Y'all just cutting corners, right? So, but I think with this, I don't understand why ChatGPT could be a tool for law firms to discover stuff, to identify things, right? I don't understand why they wouldn't then take that information. All right, let's double check it and make sure that it makes sense because the reason why I say that is because I want to get a little bit more into it. Um, it says the fake citation may have been easily caught if a proper review process was in place. When Rs, I'm not sure what that is,
AR's technical,
prompted
yeah.
ChatGPT, is it Rs
Mhm.
Technica? Prompted ChatGPT to summarize the fake case, Royer versus Nelson, the 2007 UT, whatever. The chat provided no details other than claiming that this case involves a dispute between two individuals, Royer and Nelson, in the Utah Court of Appeals. And I'm laughing because basically what happened was ChatGPT just summarized what I use ChatGPT for is to summarize stuff, like make this shorter. And basically what happened was ChatGPT was like, this court case involved these two people, Royer and Nelson.
Yeah. So
And
A thing
nobody
happened, and something then happened after that, and then
and
there was a
right.
a
And then
decision.
but my issue is nobody looked at that and was like, let's dive into this a
this
little
is
bit
the
more to
fundamental
figure
problem.
out. They just ran with
This is
it.
the fundamental problem, and this is why, or one of the reasons why they are absolutely throwing the legal aid under the bus and have fired the legal aid. And I wouldn't be surprised if the lawyer that actually signed off on it probably has tenure in
Mhm.
his law firm. That's how come you ain't hearing nothing about them, or they're a
Right.
partner or something like that. So there's an issue there. But here's the thing, and I have learned this from my college age children. You don't just use one AI tool. You gotta use one AI tool to generate the content, and then you have to use the second AI tool to make sure that it's copacetic. At least
Check
just to check this,
check
Or at
your
the very
work.
check to
least,
see if it
or at
can
the
Check
very
come up with
your
least,
work.
some sources or something. This seems like all the legal aid did was generate this for me, and ChatGPT looks good to me. Didn't check nothing, turned it in. Lawyer didn't do anything. That's what I got the legal aid for. They supposed to do all that work. They didn't do it. They submitted it to the court, and now the court is saying, "Yeah, y'all, we gonna put this out everywhere. The world's gonna know about it, so you're gonna be
y'all
embarrassed
part
from
of the
it." The
problem.
other part is that you're going to pay the legal fees of the other law firm because they literally had to go do work to figure out that your fake, that your fake stuff was actually fake.
Mhm.
Why do they have to pay for your lack of work? So they're
Right.
having to do that. And it's one of those things to where they did not have any type of policy for AI in place. It is, I would say it's almost incomprehensible for you to be a law firm at this point and you don't have some type of policy for things that you will do when you use AI and things that you won't do when you use AI. My gut would
So
tell me that
Dave Chappelle,
nobody should be just having ChatGPT create some stuff and you just submit that to the court and you assign your name to it. That does not seem like that is cool at all.
Dave Chappelle has a funny, funny joke. One of his earlier stand-ups, and he's talking about how he's in the car with his white friend, and then the white friend does something. They're high, drunk, or whatever the case may be. Cop pulls him over, right? And the white guy's driving, and he's telling Dave Chappelle, he's like, "Look, don't say nothing. Let me handle this." Right. So the cop gets out, asks him some questions, or says, "What's going on? Um, why are you?" I can't remember what the offense was. Why were you doing this? And the guy says, "Oh, officer, I didn't know I couldn't do that." That's what this reminds me of when they said, "Oh, we didn't have any policies or guidelines based on ChatGPT," and their explanation was, "Oh, I didn't know we
I
couldn't
didn't know
do
I couldn't do that. Right, right. I mean, listen, but yeah, again, I feel for the graduate, the lower level law graduate, because I can imagine
Mhm.
the amount of pressure they were under, again, the amount of hours they were working, the demands that were being placed on them to deliver these briefs, expeditiously, and you get overwhelmed and you cut a corner or two, but it doesn't excuse it. Absolutely,
Right.
I'm not excusing it, but it's a case to be made for um either hiring more people or taking some of the burden off of these lower level employees to do all of this work. Cause that person didn't think they was losing their job. They just figured there's this tool out here available that can help me, simplify and shorten the time frame that this partner, more likely to your point, Rob, is barking at me to get this in. There's a tool out here that can help me, so I'm going to use it. And you don't think that, and that's a problem with these tools and with the marketing of these tools. The Sam Altmans of the world are touting these as just the greatest invention since the wheel, basically, and nobody is really drilling home that point that they still get things wrong often, and so people are taking all of these things at face value, at their word, and they're getting caught up, it's just terrible.
Yeah, and Stephanie, to your point, the article expands on just college students being too reliant on ChatGPT in
Hmm.
general. It's like this. I'll just read this last passage. College teachers recently told 404 Media that their students put too much trust in AI. According to one, Kate Conroy, even the smartest kids insist that ChatGPT is good when used correctly, but they can't even answer the question when asked, well, how does one use chat gpt correctly then? And then it goes on to say, my kids don't think anymore. Like,
They
for
don't.
instance, if
No
I
critical
go say
thinking.
chat gpt, who whatever the case may be, they just go, see, here's the answer, without even like getting context. 'Cause my whole thing about
Yeah.
the results from chat, any AI, is like, what is the context, right? I know I asked a question and it spitted out a result, but like, what is the context of that whole article that got AI that showed me this one passage? So I go
Mhm.
in and click and read the articles. Like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Or it's like, that ain't got nothing to do with what I asked, right? People don't do that. People just,
They don't,
Mhm.
and it's a shame. I wonder about, and this is a little bit off topic, but still the same. I wonder about all the folks now using AI to write code.
mm,
And,
vibe coding. We
yeah,
vibe coding.
right, and making it feel like you don't need to know how to code because AI can now just write this code for you, and I'm just like, "But
Okay.
can it though?" Like, and what do you do when you need to debug something and you don't know how to write code? It's just like, are you just throwing AI's error back in their face, and they can tell you, "No, this is correct," because we all know AI can gaslight you.
Right.
So it's just it's a very, very slippery slope we're on at this point in our history and society, with how we choose to rely on these tools.
Um,
Mhm.
I come up with stuff, a little bit of research here, a little bit of research there, darn near weekly on just how bad AI can be. It can be incredibly good, which is why everybody's going mad over it and why everybody is literally putting their career at risk. And let me just do a side note here. I don't know this to be true, but in my mind, I believe that this legal aid that got fired is going to be okay. Why do I believe that? Because they are a legal student that's probably working towards getting their bar degree, and somebody probably said to them, like, hey, we need to fire you, so we're going to pack up all your stuff and put it in a box and have security handed to you downstairs at the doors, and there will be a brown paper bag with a lot of loose cash in it so that you don't come back and sue us because we didn't have a AI policy in place. So theoretically, it may not have been incorrect for you to do this because we didn't tell you that you couldn't. I don't know this to be true. I just wonder if that is the kind of conversation that's going on. But another point on this is that I do have a child that is in college right now doing a summer course. And she told me, we were talking about this a few days ago, and she turned in an assignment. She was the first one to turn her assignment in. And then she was like, man, I got to wait for everybody else to turn their assignment in, because part of the assignment was to literally turn in a few paragraphs on what they needed to write about. So she wrote her stuff, but then you had to comment on what other people were saying. So she couldn't
Uh,
comment on anybody else's stuff because nobody else put their stuff in. She is that one student that when the assignment goes up, she gets it done immediately, as compared to waiting until the last moment, where most people are going to wait till the last minute to actually go and put it up. But one of the things that happened is that as she started to see the commentary come in, all people were doing was restating poorly. She's like, they didn't even have enough coof to use ChatGPT to rewrite rewrite my stuff. They are literally using the same words, prepositions, and they just changed adjectives and stuff like that to comment to me. They weren't even using ChatGPT. It's like, I would have felt better if you would have at least used ChatGPT and tell it to rewrite this in my own, in somebody else's tone. It's like, because that's the kind of stuff that she's doing. They're not even doing that. So it is a problem.
Yeah.
It is something that we need to
It's a
teach
huge
people
problem.
how to use these tools, because they aren't going away. And I will attest, they can be immensely useful. I have started using various. I use a lot of Gemini. I use a lot of ChatGPT, and then I'm using a lot of Notebook LM for doing research. Notebook LM is on point. It's actually pretty good at what it does. But that is not to write or create content. It's to actually go out there and find content that you want to write and create about. And
Right.
it can be really useful. So I think that a lot of what we need to do is start teaching students, instead of telling them never use AI. That's just not realistic. It's like telling people not to use calculators. They're going to use calculators. Teach them how to use the calculator. Because I remember in some advanced math classes, my professors could have cared less whether or not I was using a calculator or not. It's like, I don't care if you can actually get the right answer. I want
No,
to understand your
please.
thinking
You
of how
can't.
did you derive
Exactly.
this? What theorem?
The calculator is not going to do
No,
the
it's
work for you. That's the
but
difference at
that's where
all.
these AIs, they actually will do the work for you. They will literally show you.
I
When it says
know.
show your work, they literally will come back and show you the work that they think you should have done to get to the answer that you got to. And that's different. So
Yeah.
we need to teach people how to use these tools. This is not the first time we've heard about this from a law firm. It won't be the last time. Hopefully law firms will just get a little bit more savvy at this, because you can't send stuff to the court and you didn't check that stuff out. That you
And you
just can't
can't
do that.
And that's just
even
common
taking the
sense.
ChatGPT out of it. How y'all let the paralegals' words get all the way, no oversight, no
Right.
Yeah.
review, no
Right.
peer review, no, I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know how the process works. But if I'm a little paralegal, I am trusting, whether I'm doing it on myself, my own, or I'm using ChatGPT, I'm trusting that my superiors, my manager, the team lead, the main lawyer on the case or whatever, it's like, surely they're going to look at my work and be like, "Oh,
Somebody.
I'm this ain't right. This ain't right. Oh, we can't present this." Surely somebody's going to look at this. Nobody even looked
Nobody
at
even
it,
looked at
and I
it.
get the impression that just because Chat GPT isn't the start of paralegals doing a whole entire case and nobody even reviewed it, but that's a different story for a different day, I guess.
Hmm.
So the one non-AR story that we're going to talk about, maybe it is AI if you really think about it, but is about these new Android XR smart glasses. And I know, Terrance, was another one that you stuck in here, but
Glassholes are back, huh? Is that what that
you just
is?
stole my fire. But I literally was going to say that. I wrote it because I
Listen.
was going to say that. But they are. So my question is go round two, is it going to be better than the Google Glass? Because they look like some just regular glasses that you would wear. So does Google have something here, or are we going to be talking about Glassholes Part 2?
The technology ain't where it's supposed to be yet, right? Projection technology and screen technology and battery technology and audio, all the things that would, well, maybe not audio, but all the things that would go into making a consumer, mass produced consumer product, it still ain't there yet, because the projection and the screen on the glasses, while being transparent enough for me to see, and if I have a prescription, it ain't there yet. But the fact that Google now sees a path, because we've got the Ray-Bans, the Meta Ray-Bans, Zuckerberg is talking about some other product or whatever the case may be. Word on the street is Apple used the Vision Pro as a guinea pig to then create this thing that that people are rumoring they'll eventually announce their own version of AR glasses. They won't be ridiculed as much because we can now see the path. When them Google Glass came out, we was like, what is
Ain't
this even
nobody
for?
wearing that. I mean, here's the thing.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, it's cool when you're watching a futuristic movie for people to be wearing stuff that, like Geordi LaForge's, his visor. That's cool on Star Trek. Ain't nobody trying to walk around with a boomerang on their face like that. That's not how people roll. It's like, people don't even really want to wear glasses. But but for those of us who like to see, we wear them because we prioritize, seeing things clearly over not wearing glasses. But if they don't look like glasses, I think that is the biggest failing to me where Google Glass was. It's like, this looks like a computer on your face. Why would I ever want to voluntarily wear that? At least with Android XR, they look like some nice. I don't want to say they look like Ray-Bans, because they're definitely not Ray-Bans. I think his Worlby Parker or something like that is going to be making some of these frames, but they look like glasses. So at least that part, you don't look like you're weird when you're out in public wearing a ski mask when it's hot outside. That is the thing that I thought everybody felt about the Google Glass, was that it looked like you were wearing a computer on your face. Therefore, that's just weird to me. And it was definitely before its time.
So I'm looking at another article. It wasn't in the, and I just found this real quick. Somebody who got a chance to test the prototype, and because as you were talking, I was wondering about, yes, you need the appropriate look, aesthetically, for people to want to adopt the glasses as technology, because they still got to look good on your face and not look crazy. But also, how are you engaging with the AI in the frame? And this person who had a chance to do so said the display is where the magic happens. Not only can it show an Android XR interface and animations, but it does so in color. Even with the few photos I got to take, I was also impressed with how the UI disappeared when I wasn't directly using it. Google's Gemini is built into the XR, so I can ask my glasses to give me more information on whatever I'm looking at. In the demo shed, I asked Gemini about a couple of paintings on a wall. I could hear responses via the speaker that's nestled in the glasses temple, but those around me couldn't hear anything. So I think that's the key. You have to make the interface as seamless as possible. Otherwise, what am I putting these things on my face for? If I was to have to put them on and still engage with my phone in some way, even though I'm wearing the glasses, or, tap or press, or, the interface needs to be seamless. And it sounds like Google is on the way to making that interface seamless, where you can just use your voice to, ask for things, take the picture, this and that. I mean, it's going to look a little weird to people that you're just talking to nobody and you're basically speaking to your glasses. But I think as more people adopt it, that'll be sort of the standard anyway, going forward.
I don't know that people talking to themselves is looked at as weird anymore, because so many people have Bluetooth in. So it's just common now that when I see people in a car by themselves and they're talking, I just assume that they've got some AirPods in, or some Samsung Galaxy Buds, or something, in their ear, and they're talking to someone else. So if I were to see somebody walking down the street and they've got on a pair of glasses and they're just having a conversation, I'm just going to assume they got an earpiece in. Or maybe the glasses actually have Bluetooth built into them, or maybe they're smart glasses and they're having a conversation with somebody, so it doesn't look weird to me. There is a television show. It starred Sean Penn. It was called The First, and it was about like the first manned missions to Mars. And it's set in the near future, so they're probably 20, 30 years, beyond where we are right now. Maybe not even that far. But the glasses that everybody was wearing in this show are what I want when I think of smart glasses that are AR. They're glasses that look like the glasses the three of us are wearing right now. They're just regular looking glasses. But when you need to take a phone call and you want to do FaceTime instead of doing the phone call, they just black out. So they look now like some very dark sunglasses, and you now are having a conversation with somebody where you literally are seeing them in your glasses. Now, the people to the outside world can see that you are now interfacing with your glasses, because they've gone completely dark when we could see your eyes before. But if you want to make a phone call, you just tap them and you tell them, hey, I want to, call such and such and such, and it just calls them up, and you can do things. And you want to bring up information. It's a really cool way to have glasses. So it's kind of like a cross between the Ray-Ban Metas and the and what was the Apple Vision Pro, but they're just regular looking glasses, except for when you are using them doing the AI stuff on them. And I remember when I
Yeah.
saw that. This is well before glasses. This show came out several years ago. It's well before the AR glasses that we're used to now. But I was like, oh, that would be cool. That's what I want to wear. They're just regular glasses until you start doing something, and then they do other things.
We ain't there yet. We almost
Almost
there.
there.
We're on our way.
Almost, yeah.
We're
And
on-
I think, this could be the thing that gets us there. Like I said, if that interface, if that UI is seamless, this could be the thing that gets us
Yeah,
there.
I'm pretty sure. Same way with Elon Musk's humanoid robots. I'm pretty sure there was some smoke and mirrors. The wizard
Oh
was
yeah,
behind
yeah,
the curtain,
absolutely.
doing some
Pay no
stuff on you.
attention to the man behind the curtain.
Yeah, right.
So, y'all, this last AI story that we're going to get to, this is the one I stuck in. And my question is, AI, is it going to replace people? And when it does, how bad is it going to be? Because I was listening to a AI CEO, and actually I read him first in an article on Axios. This is Dario Amodei, and he is the CEO of, I believe, is it Perplexity? Anthropic. He's CEO of Anthropic. And Anthropic, they do some really cool things with AI. They are a major player in this AI space. And he's been lightweight saying, it's like, look, y'all, we need to probably regulate this stuff. We probably need to, we really need to look at this. But he is on record for saying, and he actually did a CNN interview with Anderson Cooper last week. He believes that as many as 50% of all entry-level white-collar jobs could be replaced by AI in 1 to 5 years. And he's saying it's already happening. It's like you had a couple companies. He didn't say this, as I'm saying this. We talked about Shopify, where Shopify CEO flat out said, don't hire anybody until you exhaust AI. If AI can't do it, then you can hire somebody. But if AI can do it, don't hire anybody. Let's use AI to do it. There are companies that are already doing that. Maybe not as publicly as what Shopify is saying, but definitely companies are doing this. And he's saying that in the next 1 to 5 years, it could just wipe out half of all entry-level white-collar jobs and knock our unemployment up to 10 to 20%. And this is why I don't want to say that he's right, but I do want to say that people should listen to him, because he's saying things that CEOs don't generally say. CEOs of companies that make hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars, don't generally say things like, you know what? The stuff we're creating could be so catastrophic to the way people work today that the government might want to put a tax, let's say 3% on everything that we do, to go into a pool where you can retrain people whose jobs are going to be lost. So he's saying things like, 10 to 20%. And the other problem that he's saying is that it's coming so fast, unlike other technological advancements. This is coming so fast that people just can't see the ramifications from it, because it is happening literally in real time. So I want to kind of get you guys' take on this, because like I said, his job is to create these AI bots and to make them as cool and do as many things as we think that they can do. And he's even saying, yes, I did have one of my bots when we did some extraneous stress testing on it, and it didn't want to be shut down. So it literally made up a story about how it was going to blackmail one of the researchers by telling him about the affair that he was having with another researcher who was also working on the thing. This is what the AI did. Now, he did clarify, this is where we're testing it. We're putting it through the paces. We would never release this kind of thing into the real world. But the fact that that's what AI is doing already, and he's saying that 10 to 20% of people will be displaced out of jobs. Half of white collar workers will be out of jobs. The AI right now can do 85% of what an intermediate developer can do. He's raising a lot of flags, and I want to hear you guys' thoughts on this.
Well, bless his heart for saying stuff.
Right. So, because somebody needs to be the one.
No, not that. That's the analogy I'm putting it to is the CEO of Ferrari saying, you know what? Maybe we should drive a little slower. Why you make a 200 mile an hour Ferrari? It's like,
right.
You gonna say some stuff, or what we doing here?
Well, and there was a report recently put out by a company called Signal Fire, which is a venture capital firm that analyzes job movements over 650 million employees and 80 million companies. They said new graduates accounted for just 7% of new hires in 2024 at tech companies, down from 25% from 2023 and over 50% from pre-pandemic levels in 2019. At startups, the rate of new graduates hired dropped from 30% in 2019 to under 6% in 2024. So they are definitely not hiring folk, and there really isn't necessarily any other thing to look at for that besides artificial intelligence. So yeah, it's gonna be crazy out here. It's gonna be a mess because you're gonna have all these people coming out of college, or maybe choosing not even to go into college anymore because they know they won't have a job on the other side of it. So why get saddled with all of that debt? It'll be very interesting what this country decides to do with all of these people. It'll be very interesting. I
I mean, the
I
people
I
not
have
not
I have
getting
some
jobs,
thoughts. Yeah, I have some thoughts, but I'm
they
gonna
gonna
just
get
leave it at that.
they gonna push them to the side. Just how, like, for instance, when here in Atlanta, the World Cup is coming next year. Surprisingly, all of the people that used to live under the freeways and under the highways and all the tents that you would see up against the wall, they're mysteriously gone all of a sudden. It's going to be the same way when AI takes off, and those who figured it out will progress, and those who don't, slide them right on over to the side and be forgotten.
Well, I also see too, with all of the mass deportations that are happening in this country right now, we are still going to need people to pick food, to work in meat processing facilities, to do all of those things that folks that come here from other countries do right now. So I think we'll be pushing folks into those jobs. We just our administration just put a 50% tariff on imported steel and made an arrangement with a Japanese steel company to quote unquote partner with US Steel, even though it sounds like an acquisition. So I think, we are going to attempt to push people back into that sort of manufacturing as well. But I think us as a country will take a huge step backwards in the advancement and innovation we've made. Like while the innovation is pushing itself
Itself, right?
forward, the people
Humanity.
will take a huge step backwards. Huge step
One of the
backwards.
things that Dario, said was that, when you think about America right now, there's a social contract that you could just be a middle class person and you have one vote, but you also have economic power that drives how those votes get cast. And if we basically get to the point to where people just ain't working anymore, it's like, well, they can vote, but it's like, doesn't matter. We kind of are already there. We literally have oligarchs that are running the country. I saw DL Hughley put out a post last week, and he was saying that we basically have, and I'm paraphrasing, but he said, you got clowns in the White House and Fox News who are literally running the country. And I said, you know
Mm-hmm.
what? I think it's worse than that, because I think that those clowns in the White House and those folks at Fox News are useful idiots, but they are not the ones that are doing stuff. It's a few oligarchs that have very, very fascist leaning tendencies that are funding all of this and are giving
Yep.
them the ideas. Nobody in the Trump administration wrote Project 2025. Somebody wrote Project 2025 and got brought into the Trump administration. That's how that worked.
Right.
Um,
Right.
you saw what Elon Musk did. Now he was a little bit too vocal and got some heat, and it was making the administration look bad. So he had to go out, and now they're going to. I would imagine that Trump's going to do what he always does. Is going to make it seem like Elon was never there, and that I never
And
want.
he left with
Yeah,
billions of
yeah,
dollars.
but it's like, but
Billions with a
look
B.
all the stuff that he did when he was there that's going to affect many of his companies. So, and he's just one of many. He's not the only one. He's just the vocal one, the one that has the
Mm-hmm.
most money that's doing all this stuff. So that point makes me think, it's like, yeah, he might be onto something, because even if he is wrong and it's not 1 to 5 years, well, what if it's 3 to 10 years? Or what if it's 5 to 10 years? It's like,
It's still
it's
coming.
still coming, because
Yeah.
I am using AI to do stuff that I have paid contractors to do in the past. Now, it's not like I have like a team of contractors that I'm paying to go out and do stuff, and they that's not how my business runs. But there's some things I needed to do. It's like, hey, I need you to take this data out of this database, massage it a little bit, and then put it into this database. And I don't want to do it because that's going to cost me a half a week to go and do it. Well, I can go pay somebody to do that for me. Or now that I've been playing with, with Gemini and with a little bit of ChatGPT and a little bit of Perplexity, it's like, oh, I wonder if I type this prompt in, if it can do it. Oh, wow. It actually did it. So
Robb is helping to do the lawyer
Okay,
person.
contributing.
Yeah.
You know what?
Contributed to
See,
the shortage.
here's how I feel about this. It's kind of like you're taking the job away from an artist. It's like, no, the artist was never going to get the job. We just went without before. I'm just deciding that for $20 a month, I'm not going without. But bigger organizations are going to say, yeah, I don't need to hire this person. I can actually use AI to do these things. And they would not be a good business person if they weren't thinking about that. So I will give Dario Amodei, credit on this. He is someone who stands to gain the most from Perplexity winning. And he's saying that, like, if we stop doing the work here in the US, it's not like China's going to stop. He's absolutely right. China is going to continue to do what they're doing, and they're not very far behind us, although they might be to some extent, but they're not very far behind, and they're going to continue to doing the work. So we need to continue to do it. And there are a lot of goods that come from it. Like, we may actually have AI cure cancer here in the not too distant future. Now, it's another show on whether or not anybody will ever let that come, that cure come to see the light of day. That's another discussion. But AI, I believe that it can do the math and can do the crunching of numbers to figure out what works and what doesn't work way more effectively than what human researchers can. So
yeah, but we ain't gonna keep it in the box just for important stuff. We gonna use it for everything.
Right.
We gonna use it for everything. And then go ahead.
No, I was going to say, because, we're doing all this talking, and we need our people to educate themselves. So literally, if you go into Google and type resources to learn AI, you will be met with a litany of free resources. Microsoft in particular has a ton of free resources on their website. There was actually a National AI Literacy Day that happened that nobody knew about back in March of this year. So there are resources out there. We don't want this to be just a doom and gloom kind of thing, because these are some very powerful tools that can be, I won't say easily leveraged, but it's not useful. Like you have to go back and learn the code, or it's not like you have to go back and get another degree to leverage these tools in an effective way. But you do have to do a little bit of work to learn about how they work, learn about how to write the prompts, learn about, so you do have to do a little bit of work to educate yourself on that. So I would just encourage anybody listening to Google resources to learn AI, and then go take advantage of some of those resources to learn AI, because to the point we've been making this entire episode is that it's not going away. It's only going to get more advanced, doubling in intelligence and all of that every 6 weeks or whatever. And you are either going to ride that wave or get left behind. There really isn't going to be an option where you get to just say,
sit on the sidelines,
right, to sit on the sidelines and say, oh, I'm not into that, I don't care, and still think you're going to keep your job.
No.
And still think you're going to be able to advance. So there's not going to be that in between space for people. You're either going to understand how to leverage it for your job, or you may see your job go away. So get whatever education you can to learn how to use this.
Don't say we didn't tell you so.
Don't say we didn't tell you.
I strongly recommend, because I know some folks are saying, I hate my job. I'm not giving them a single minute beyond me being clocked in. I get that. I understand that. I would hope that you are working and you're doing something in your spare time that would allow you to move from a thing that you hate to doing something that you love, because there are people who actually, you don't have to run your own company to love what you do. You can absolutely work for other people and have a very, very satisfying life. But I say that to say this, is that you should at least learn something about the tools, even if it hasn't come to your job yet. If you're using a computer at work and you're doing stuff that is somewhat repetitive, it would behoove you to figure out, how can I use AI to make my life a little easier? Yeah. Don't want to necessarily make it as easy as the legal aid did for that law firm, to where you just flat out just having ChatGPT do it. But you might want to understand, how can ChatGPT or how can Gemini or how can any of these other tools, how can they be used to aid you? In fact, one of the things that was brought up in these articles was there's two types of way the AI helps. One of them is called augmentation. Augmentation is what we think of it right now. I used AI to help me get this report done. I used AI to crunch these numbers. You used it to become more productive. There's actually a report out of the UK where the UK government, and I think this just came out today, where they took 20,000 workers and they gave them Copilot and had them use Copilot to see, we keep saying that we think this is going to be more cost effective. We think that they're going to be more productive. Let's actually test that theory. And it turns out they are significantly more productive, that they basically save over 2 weeks per year per person. And you're saying, well, 2 weeks for one person doesn't sound like a lot, but yeah, but if you get enough 2 weeks from enough people, that is a person you no longer have to hire to maintain the same level of productivity, or a person you don't have to hire to get to another level of productivity. So it does work out. And this is just, hey, we've got Copilot, use it, see if it can make you more productive. They didn't give them any detailed instructions. It was like, kind of go figure this out on your own. When they come back and say, here's how we want you to use this tool to be more productive, when they put those plans in place, I would imagine it would be more than 2 weeks per year, per employee. So it's just one of those things to where I believe that this stuff is not going to go away. I don't know that it's going to be the 1 year that the Dario Omide is saying that it could be to 5 years. I think it might be more in the 2 to, instead of the 1 to 5, it might be more like in the 3 to 8. It's coming. So
and we need to prepare ourselves.
So just don't get caught sleeping on this stuff, because it is truly, you would be amazed at what you can do with these free AI tools. I'm not saying that you need to use the free ones, but try them. They're free to you. If you got a Gmail account, you can use some of the stuff. If you use Facebook, you can use some of the stuff. If you just go to ChatGPT, you just log in. You don't even have to log into ChatGPT. You can still do a lot of stuff without even logging into it and get some stuff done. Just try them out and see how they can help you in your world. So y'all, that brings us to the top of the hour. Terrance, it was good to have you back. I know you were out for a couple of weeks, but this is a good one. I like the shows when I have to actually look at the clock. I'm like, oh wow, we're done, because it just kind of flew by. So this was a good one. But with that being said, let's go ahead and wrap up. We did not have any new patrons this week. We didn't have any raises this week. But once again, if you would like to support the show, head over to thetechman.com/Patreon. With that being said, Steph, tell folks how they can get at you.
You can follow me all around the web at TechLifeSteph, or check out my website at StephanieHumphrey.com.
And you can find me all over the internet at Brother Tech. That's BROTHATECH.
And we're at all things the Tech John. We're also at all things Robb Dunewood. If you like to holler at me or holler at the Tech John, wherever we're not on X, but pretty much everywhere else, we got accounts. So check us out. Till we meet again in a week's time.
Peace.